Hey y'all, so this week we'll be on chapter 7, the prison experience, and this is particularly one of the chapters I like a lot because it goes in depth into what goes on the inside of the prison. So let's get into it. The first thing we'll look at is the inmate code, and this is going to be interesting. Your assignment's going to cover this, and I've got you a guide in the module to show you what exactly the inmate code is, and this is just a code or set of rules or guidelines that the inmates have to go by if they're going to be successful or live without a bunch of controversy or upheaval inside of the prison. The inmate code is a set of norms and values that develops in the prison social system. So this is not something that the warden will give down or the correctional officers. This is among the inmates. And this is just like a street code. When you go into prison, you need to know what this code is and abide by it. It defines the model prisoner in the eyes of inmates and provides a code of conduct that directs inmates on how they should behave while in prison. So this is especially true for the men when they're in prison. They have to abide by this code, and you're going to see no snitching, don't rat on other inmates. It's a list of them, and they strictly abide by these codes. And if you violate it, then they deal with you. Um, it proves whether or not you're tough, whether or not you're weak, whether or not you can hold your own during your time, whether or not you're going to be a sucker for the guards. A prisoner who is emotionally weak and snitches on his fellow inmates of the staff, gets involved in other people's business. It talks about all of this. Um, and as I stated, this comes from the subculture of the inmates. So you have different adaptive reflective roles that the inmates will have to relieve the pains of being in prison. So some of them will just abide by these codes to keep from, well, to survive and not be picked on in prison. Others adapt to these codes because they brought them off the street with them. So it's just a way of living for them. And we're going to talk about what goes on inside the prison wall. Also, we'll look at um, the interpersonal relationships in the men versus the women prison. This is totally different. Men, when you enter a male prison, you often have to join a gang, and these gangs are not like the Bloods and the Crips. These, well, some of them may be called that, but these gangs are often together along a racial divide. So you'll have all the Caucasians together, all the African Americans together, all the Hispanics will be together, and they'll form gangs like that. And an inmate gets in these gangs so that he can have protection. So the men form cliques and they have those norms, and they're kind of self sufficient. Like I say, you have to join that gang for the protection. If not, then you're out there on your own. Men are expected to do their own time, and they share very little with one another. Women, on the other hand, develop what they call pseudo families, and they have, in those pseudo families, they'll have like the husband and the wife, the aunt, the uncle, the nieces. They'll have all of that, and they give each other a lot of emotional support, sexual and emotional support. So you may see sexual violence, a lot of raping going on in the male prison, but in the women prison, it's more of a voluntary thing. Unless you have a correction officer against the women, that's something different. All right. So we'll also look at the issue of sexual misconduct in women's prison, and as I just stated, a lot of that comes from the correctional officers when they decide to be inappropriate with the women, and we've had lawsuits, and I've even heard stories of correctional officers that have gotten women pregnant. And some women will do this so that they can have favor while they're in the prison. Others will do it just so that they can maybe get an extra phone call or get the heads up while they're in the prison. Um, and then lastly, we'll look at why prison entries and medical services are important. As we know, prisoners have a lot of rights while they're inside. And so you have to have different facilities and industries that's going to offset the cost of what it would be to take care of all those prisoners. We'll look into that. They'll talk about hepatitis C and AIDS and some more things that occur in prison. And we'll also look into telemedicine. So jump into this chapter. I think you're going to love it. And just keep doing what you're doing. Remember, discussion posts You need to post your first post by Thursday. By Sunday, respond to your classmates. Read our discussion requirements to get more on that. For your assignments, be sure that you answer each question fully. Don't just give me 1 or 2 sentences unless I say you can do that. Answer each question fully and have those turned into me by Sunday. As always, get in contact with me if you need my help. Have a good